First hour or two, as you said, a lot of exposure.
The other thing that's back this year are long tails. We've got 5 places on this track where these cars reach 200 miles an hour, 218 miles an hour in fact. So long tails are back to give these cars that sleek look, just like the Porsche that won here in 1970 in the hands of Rich Duffy. We also have another tremendous war on hand, and that is between the tyres. Michelin versus Bridgestone. Bridgestone, we're used to seeing them in Formula 1. Michelin used to be in Formula 1. Big race here for these guys. Bridgestone, of course, on the Mercedes, and of course Michelin on the Toyotas. But we've got a lot of other tyre companies in there as well.
Indeed, and of course we have the impact of the American influence, not just in terms of cars with the Viper and the Panos being very exciting, but drivers as well. We have Johnny O'Connell. We have a number of drivers, Bill Oberlin, in there as well. Let's take a look now at the starting lineup for the 67th 20 in, and they are coming up, and boy, they did not go into much of a formation of side-by-side. We immediately go green. That's a bit of a surprise. And the 2 Toyotas lead in. The Mercedes is third as they dive into the Dunlop chicane.
And the first of those BMWs poking his nose in there. That's the car of J.J. Later, but he settles for the 4th spot as they all go through turn 1 cleanly over the hill under the Dunlop bridge. Such a famous picture of Le Mans, that is. The 2 Toyotas already. Martin Brundle stretching his lead as he goes into the S's, all nice and wide. Lots of run-up area now. Didn't have this in our day. Then the 2 Mercedes behind him. That Mercedes snuck around the BMW. There's the 6 and the 5 car. Right behind him, the J.J. Later car. And look at that, the Panos just behind them.
Panos right there, and that start by the Mercedes now running in 4th. An awesome start by, I think that was Peter Dumbarek, and the starting car, number 5, jumped from 7th into 4th. Gives you an idea, again, of the importance of running up front early in this event. A great start. Last year we saw that huge start by the BMW. The Mercedes has done it here.
Well, this is, of course, the pictures of the scene.
Number 19 Team Go entry of Matsushita, Kato, and Nakaya having an early off. But up front, again, Brundle has already really stretched it out going into the 2nd of the Mulsanne chicanes.
Remember, Brundle is a driver who has not raced for a whole year, so except for the testing of this car, which he has done extensively, that's all his time behind the wheel. But he's doing an absolutely beautiful job, and look at the 2 Mercedes have now pulled into 3rd and 4th. It's in the very, very fast sections, like right here, that the Mercedes have had their aerodynamic problems.
Well, it's going over that rise, isn't it, where
they
Weber...
seem to get air underneath him, going to the Mulsanne hairpin for the first time. And here's the Mercedes trying to take away that 2nd spot, coming up to one of the fastest areas here. That over that rise, there's a slight right-hand sweep, and another right-hand sweep after that, which takes you down to where Weber crashed on Thursday evening. The Mercedes giving that 2nd Toyota there a tough run for its money. Both Mercedes glued together. Right here is where that car went over on Thursday night.
That gives you an idea of how brave those 2 Mercedes drivers are. Schneider, of course, in that lead car, and Dumbarek in the 2nd one, both of them running right up behind the cars in front, knowing what had happened to Weber in that same spot. They want a piece of this 2nd place here, and are pushing very hard to get just that.
That's the Boots and McNish car. Ralph Calliner's also driving with them. 2 Mercedes right behind them. BMW coming up again behind. This is the quick rundown out of Arnage up to the Porsche curves. Very fast here, up again to 200 miles an hour, just right about here as you swing through that little left-hand kink before taking this first right-hander of the Porsche curves. Just, these are some of the great corners. Very fast right, terrifically fast left-hander over a bridge right here. We see it over that bridge. Then it turns into another right-hander, which is an off-camber corner, and the cars want to push wide in as the day goes on and the rubber picks up. Then this really fast left-hander onto the straight run back towards the pit area here with a couple of very fast kinks and then 2 really slow chicanes right before the start-finish line. It's a very technical course. There's a lot goes on.
And David, watching the cars, you can see how hard they're pushing. You think of a 24-hour race as being an endurance race, but the cars are so reliable these days that the drivers, you see right over the curvings and everything, they push them as hard as you would push a Formula 1 car.
Something flying up there.
Seconds of what they could qualify at.
Now that Panos that took that BMW out there at turn 1, which we saw right here just on the first lap of the race, that was the Johnny O'Connell car. So let's hope it didn't damage his car as he went across that gravel. There is the Panos driven by David Brabham, which qualified so well on both Wednesday and Thursday.
And you see the open Audis outpacing the Audi coupes. Audi has 4 cars in the race, 2 of them open, 2 of them coupes, and for some reason the open cars are outperforming the coupes. And we'll talk, oh boy, look at that.
Oh,
Schneider really giving it the stick there. We're talking a little while about the difference in the rules between the open and closed cars, but right now, as you can see, the first 4 cars are all closed coupes, and the first open car is that BMW you see just disappearing over the rise.
And the Panos, then another BMW right behind the Panos. Great aerial shot of the chicane. The 2 chicanes on the main Mulsanne straight. One is a right-left. The next one is a left-right. So it gives the driver some... Woo! Boy, oh boy, right up on
the back end stepped out. He corrected, and of course that changed his track out by about 3 feet, and he went over the approach to the curve. Here's the rise that has really been legend throughout the years.
Cyclops light up around the driver's chest.
So as we watch the cars heading toward Eau Rouge, we are very early into the 24 hours of Le Mans. Welcome back to Le Mans. And as we went to break, I mentioned that the cars were heading toward one of the great corners of the world. I was thinking great corner, so Eau Rouge came out. And of course, it's Tertre Rouge as they head onto the Mulsanne. And there is a good look at one of the Mercedes. That is the car that is running in 4th spot, the second of the 2 cars that remain. And Bouchou, Heidfeld, and Dumbreck are driving. However, the number 9 Audi, the Audi Sport UK Coupe, is down in the pits.
Oil from somewhere, but that, of course, is putting them a lap down.
Very early in the going as well, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And the Mercedes now, the number 9 Audi just came out of the pits and really bottled up the Mercedes behind it, and they swing by now.
You see him shifting there with the paddle shifters on the steering wheel.
Taken right out of the McLaren Mercedes program. And so obviously problems for that number 9 Audi. We're still curious as to why, Andrew.
Stefan, what was the problem there?
Bad.
Andrew, at least somebody was there to clean it. In 1970, I had a car blow up in front of me on the track. Got the windshield covered with oil, had to come in. All the mechanics were asleep. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to get out, fix it myself, got back in the car, went on. When I finally ended my stint, they said, you know, you had one really long lap. I said, yes, damn it, I did.
We were on board momentarily with the number 5 AMG Mercedes, the CLR, LM as they call it. And that, of course, is the car of Bouchou, Heidfeld, and Dumbreck. Back on board. And that gives you an idea that this may be a 24-hour race, but they are driving very, very hard in those cars.
They have 3 drivers per car, and the idea is each man has plenty of time off, and you're supposed to go just as hard as you possibly can, conceivably avoiding running over the steeper of the curves, but everything else is let her rip.
Through the Mulsanne hairpin, just before that was that rise that caught out Weber for the second. One of the onboards for a battle a little bit deeper in the pack. There is that lead of the Mercedes cars right now.
Notice the way, Greg, the Mercedes is bumping up and down. It doesn't look real stable on the road compared to the Toyotas. Now, the Porsche GT1s that won the race here last year had that same look, that short coupled bouncy look. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the source of their aerodynamic problems. It's just a point. They are obviously very different in the way they're suspended than these Toyotas, which just run with such a stable look to them.
Well, the new CLR, and there is Schneider. He was already heading back out onto the track. Brundle turned out of pit lane, and they almost got together. And no contact, but it looked as though Brundle... Welcome back to Le Mans, and it is currently the number 15 BMW is leading, but there is the number 2 Toyota. That is the car that was started by, I believe, Thierry Boutsen, and it is currently running in the 3rd position. Of course, the number 1 car is being piloted by Martin Brundle, and Sam, you talked about the fact that Martin, it's an interesting story. He's not a full-time racer.
Of course, he has vast experience in Formula One. He's a tremendous driver, and he has been the sort of moral leader of this team for a couple of years now. But it's still a question, is he fit enough? Is he a little bit too old for pushing the car this hard? I think in every way he will pass those tests, but it is a question mark. And it is interesting when you have a team that runs only once a year, you get into certain types of problems that maybe you wouldn't if they raced regularly. But then again, that said, Mercedes, who you see leading here on the right of the screen, does race regularly, and they're the team that's had the problems here.
They have had their problems, but the Toyotas have had some 45,000 miles of testing, and the man who's been conducting most of that is Martin Brundle. This team came in heavily favored, and the question to Martin is, how does that feel?